Opening a new chapter in the Mustang's book, Ford has unveiled its growling and snarling new beast, the 2016 Shelby GT350, a car that will surely eclipse the Boss 302 and perhaps the contemporary Chevrolet Z28 at the track. We get our first sampling of it in motion. Hard specifications weren't issued during today's reveal, but Ford says the new flat-plane crankshaft engine will offer over 500 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque. It is, Ford says, the most powerful naturally aspirated V8 they've ever produced, and they're right. Wrapping this new car's image and lineage around Carroll Shelby's original GT350 of 1965, Ford set out to create something more pure and exotic, perhaps even simpler than the big block GT500 with its heavy supercharger. Some may remember that even back in the 1960s, when asked, Carroll Shelby would recommend a friend buy a GT350 over his own GT500, saying, "It'll handle better, last longer, and you'll enjoy it more." The reality is that the new 2016 Shelby GT350 is nothing close to simple. In fact, it's likely one of the most sophisticated Mustangs to ever roll out of Detroit. And while there may be again a GT500, this one has its own mission, getting back to square one. Its new high-revving 5.2-liter V8 is a first for Ford, who's never dabbled in the eccentricities of the flat-plane crankshaft. What's the big deal here? Well, by design, the crankshaft places each rod journal 180 degrees from the other instead of 90. This moves the firing order back and forth evenly between the cylinder banks, creating an even exhaust pulse. This not only changes the sound, but typically by design reduces crankshaft mass by eliminating much of the counterweights. The result is a much more exotic sound, as most race cars and high-end exotic sports cars feature this format. It also offers a free-breathing engine with 4 valves per cylinder and variable valve timing, the chance to really dole out some real power without forced induction. It'll come only with a 6-speed manual transmission, as it should be. A standard Torsen limited slip differential comes at the rear to keep the tires planted, but because this isn't an overwrought torque monster, we should see a nice launch and corner exit behavior regardless. Chassis engineers made a few important changes to increase stiffness, starting with a unique injection molded carbon fiber composite radiator surround, which is sure to get a lot of hype and attention. Front track has been widened slightly too. Suspension gets a makeover with revised springs and bushings and a slightly lower ride height. A set of driver-adjustable Magna Ride dampers allows for stiffness settings to tune from street to track. You can also set it in auto and let its brain make the call as needed. An upgrade in brakes up front includes huge 15.5-inch 2-piece cross-drilled rotors and near 15-inch rotors at the rear. Brembo provides 6-piston calipers up front. One wonders if they're the only brake company anymore. 4-piston calipers are found out rear. Wrapped around those huge brakes are literally the smallest wheels which would fit around them. You have 19 by 10.5 up front and 19 by 11 at the rear. Tires are custom designed Mission Pilot Super Sport just for the GT350. In terms of styling, Ford kept it relatively simple. A new hood is lowered and sloped differently to reduce drag. A unique front fascia gets a more aggressive splitter, which along with a ducted belly pan has more downforce at speed. Air extractors can be found on both the hood and the bulging fenders, all of which not only makes this car look mean and nasty for the guy with the checkbook in the showroom, but Ford says it's functional to reduce turbulence and lift. Backing this up a bit is a much more subtle than expected deck lid spoiler and a general lack of overly styled elements beyond the new front fenders and front fascia. So far, this car is walking the talk, staying close to the footprints of the original Shelby GT350. Inside, things dial up a bit more, starting with special to the GT350 Recaro seats, a flat-bottom steering wheel, and a specific gauge cluster. Interior finishes are subdued, meaning that the garish chrome bezels have been dulled out so we don't get sun in our eyes on track days. What the original Shelby GT350 didn't have is the driver control system, which has 5 different drive modes to tune the ABS, stability and traction control, steering weight, throttle, and Magna Ride dampers, as well as the exhaust sound. How fun would that have been in 1965? If you've ever driven a 1965 Shelby GT350, you would have been happy enough to have comfortable seats and power brakes, let alone the ability to tune every aspect of the car's behavior. This isn't 1965 though, and this car is going to cost a lot more than it did back then. Count on it. Ford will be telling us a lot more very soon, so stay tuned. For now, just listen to that wicked sound and watch it roll around that track.